right, everyone. The Chinese GP is officially over, and man, was that a snooze fest. Absolutely boring race for the second round of the F1 2025 season. And yeah, I mean, it was equivalent to watching paint dry, on a wet Tuesday morning. It was terrible. Actually, there's more action after the race than there was during the race. And let me get into that. Ferrari, both drivers being disqualified, Leclerc and Hamilton, and the potential of a Liam Lawson being booted from his Red Bull seat to be replaced by Yuki Tsunoda for the Japanese Grand Prix. We'll get into that in a bit later on. All right, let's get into the race. The race was absolutely boring. I mean, there was 2-3 passes. Alonso got out pretty early because of I guess he just could not manage his brakes or something mechanically going wrong with that. I don't know. I do remember hearing that the surface was really hot and a lot of wear on the tires, but his rear brake was the one that was given out. So not sure if that was a driver issue or more of a mechanical issue. Either way, he was out, did not help him. But Stroll, on the other hand, surprisingly did really well. He brought in some points for the team, so congratulations, Lance Stroll. Will we have more of those this year from him? Probably not, but we will see. All right, now let's get into the juicy stuff. Both Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc were both disqualified from the race for two different reasons. Lewis was disqualified for an overused skid block. Yeah, I don't know what that means. Apparently, the plank under his car was too worn down. Translation: you drove too hard, sir. We're taking your points. If that makes sense. Meanwhile, Leclerc was a funny reason. He was disqualified because his car was underweight. Now, why was his car underweight? Because they put in less water during the Chinese GP. Now, if you looked at last week, Australia, he had a water leakage. And the Ferrari team thought maybe he had too much water. So the Chinese GP comes, they put in less water. Now, because of that, they disqualified Charles Leclerc from getting any points. So Ferrari ended up with a big fat 0 for the Chinese GP. Imagine that meeting. Hey, we lost water last race. Let's bring less. Genius. And the result, 0 points. Ferrari's new motto should be fixing one problem by creating another. All right, Liam Lawson, P20. Man, that was atrocious by Liam Lawson. All right, we got to give him some slack, though. He's a rookie going with his teammate Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen is the greatest racer on the track right now. He's now with the best car. That is McLaren. But regardless, he is the best driver on track right now, and he's got a rookie as his teammate. If you're the rookie like Liam Lawson, that's a lot of pressure on your shoulders. And unfortunately, he's just not delivering. And Red Bull is not trying to make the same mistake that they did last year with Checo, because last year with Checo, they gave Checo the whole season. And because of that, they lost the Constructors' Championship to McLaren. They don't want to do that this year with Liam Lawson. They don't want to give him too many races for the potential of them losing too many points in the long run, because there's a whole season ahead of them and they need to maximize points. And they only have one driver producing points. The other one, Liam Lawson, is P20 the last 2 races. Not looking good for him. Not looking good for him. The juicy fact is that Yuki Tsunoda might be taking his seat for the Japanese Grand Prix. Suzuka! Yuki Tsunoda might be racing in Suzuka. That's what he wants. And honestly, as a fan, that's kind of what I want for him too. I want him to race on one of the best teams in his home Grand Prix. He's always been on the sister team as the backup team, the backup drivers. Now he's actually able to be on the main team as a backup driver. So if he can be in the Red Bull seat for his home Grand Prix, round of applause for Yuki Tsunoda. Absolutely fantastic for him. Liam Lawson has been popping up on my Twitter feeds, but basically he's been talking shit on camera. He says that he is better than Yuki Tsunoda. He performed better than him in F2 or F3 or whatever races they were, but that was F2 and F3. You're in F1 now, my friend, and if you look at it, those are completely different cars. Now, again, he's a rookie, so give him some leeway. But at the same time, you can't compare previous results in different cars to the F1 grid where you're at the creme de la creme. All right, this is the most professional car that you will be driving, the hardest car, and you have to be delivering. You can't be bringing up the past. Yuki Tsunoda is clearly the better driver right now. All right, let's get into it. Mercedes is looking like a problem. George Russell has been performing really, really well, getting third place in China. George Russell really, really delivered for the Mercedes. And I think Kimi did really well too. I think he placed 8th and now he's 6th because of Ferrari's 2-driver disqualification. Ferrari. That being said, Mercedes scored a lot of high points. They scored higher points than Max Verstappen and Red Bull. I get it? Max Verstappen and Red Bull. Where's Liam? Not even there. But McLaren is right now leading the team. Oscar Piastri had an incredible race, leading the pack with McLaren. McLaren's definitely number 1 in the standings right now. Mercedes is number 2. I believe Ferrari is number 3, and Red Bull's number 4, or maybe even less. Williams did really well. Both their drivers scored points. Haas, both their drivers scored points. Very, very interesting from the Haas team. Good job by Behrman. He really bounced back this week than he did in Australia. Again, last week in Australia he did well in the rain, but in the dry he couldn't catch the grip. But this week he did much better. So good job, Oliver Behrman. Now, Oscar Piastri, let's get into this. He, at the start of the season, got a contract extension with McLaren. Now, I touched up on this. I think McLaren really believes in him. I think they don't want to do what they did with Lewis Hamilton, which they got rid of a very high proven young talent. And Lewis Hamilton obviously went on to go to Mercedes. They don't want to repeat those same mistakes, so they really signed an extension with Oscar Piastri. And I think he's a phenomenal driver. I think he's really, really got it. And it's going to be interesting this year because now Oscar and Lando are both in the best cars, McLaren, and they're both phenomenal drivers. We'll see who actually comes up on top. Comment down below who you think will have more points, Oscar or Lando. Looking ahead, we have the Japanese Grand Prix coming up, which is in 2 weeks' time. It will be Sunday, April 6th. That's when we'll find out if Yuki Tsunoda took over Liam Lawson's spot as the second driver to Max Verstappen on the Red Bull team. And I hope that happens because I want him to race in his home Grand Prix. I feel like that's dope, Like he finally made it to the top. Because other than that, this is Yuki's only shot, in my opinion. I really don't think other teams are going to pick him up. I think a lot of teams are really looking for new young rookies or big-time vets. And Yuki's kind of in the middle. So yeah, this is Yuki's shot. I really think this is Yuki's shot. That being said, the next stop is in Japan, a high-speed technical track with the S's. I love those S's. Absolutely fantastic. It's going to be so fun to watch this next Grand Prix because it's honestly one of the more iconic places to race. And I think it's going to be very interesting. This will be a really great baseline with all the teams stacked up to see how everyone is doing. I'm actually surprised Alpine has 0 points. I did not think they'd be starting off the season so poorly. I actually thought Haas might be still at 0 points considering, it's Haas. But they're not. Stake actually has a couple points too, which they're doing much better, which I'm very surprised Alpine is really shitting the bed. See ya in 2 weeks